That's just kicked in. Look at that.
Yeah, see, great minds.
Okay. Right, we've got 19. There's probably still another 10 to come. Scott, it's up to you if you want to wait another minute or so.
Yeah, we might just give it another, we're 1 minute past, we'll just give it another.
Yeah, just give it another minute or so.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. Feel free to put your cameras on if you've got an ability to do so as well. One of the new inclusive environments that we all need to work with. Hey, Brendan, how are you? Hey, Melanie, how are you? Okay, we might start, Scott.
Yeah, why don't we? I'm
wonderful.
Obviously mindful of your time, Stephen. So,
Not a problem.
Look, I should say, I was about to say good afternoon, everybody, but of course there might be some people which could be over in Perth and therefore could be morning. So, good morning to you. My name's Scott Williams, and I'm the CEO of AMCA Australia. Look, welcome to everybody. As I said, we've got people joining us from all over Australia. And just before I start, as is tradition with AMCA, if I could just please, just acknowledgement of country, read a quick statement. That is, as AMCA Australia gather for this meeting from many different areas across Australia, in the spirit of reconciliation, AMCA Australia acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders past and present. Well, look, I'm not going to spend too much time certainly talking, and I'm keen to pass over to Stephen, which I'll introduce in a moment. The purpose of today, obviously, is to, I guess, launch a session on what is AMCA's diversity and inclusion policy, but also our code of conduct. And thank you to all the work that's been done through the Women in HVAC group. I know there's many of you on this call, and it's a tremendous initiative and something at AMCA Australia that we're very proud of. Shortly, I'll introduce Stephen Asnikar, and I do hope I got that right again, yep. Steve. We just spoke about it before, but you said to obviously focus on Stephen is fine. But look, if I could just very quickly just read a little bit about Diversity Australia, I think it's really important. So Diversity Australia's Diversity and Inclusion Program is a pioneering initiative aimed at promoting equality and exclusivity across organisations in our diverse nation. This comprehensive program partners with businesses to create workplace that value and respect the uniqueness of each individual. Through a combination of tailored strategies, specialised training and advocacy, Diversity Australia empowers organisations to foster inclusive cultures where diversity is not only embraced but celebrated. By doing so, they enable companies to tap into the full spectrum of talent and perspectives, fostering innovation and success while contributing to a more inclusive and connected Australia for everybody. So without further ado, and thank you, Stephen, for volunteering today, I will hand over to you, Stephen. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, welcome everyone. Let's get stuck into it. We've got a lot to get through today, but let's firstly talk about DEI, diversity, equality and inclusion, and leadership in the workplace. And what we do know is that today it's a very different workforce than we've ever had before. And we know that a diverse workforce is also very critical to business performance, but diversity without inclusion means very little. So in order for leaders and yourselves to be inclusive, we need to understand what is inclusion, what does it mean? And this is where we design our sessions around to show people how the full picture comes together. But to start that journey today, we're going to start with a quick video. So watch carefully.
Should we have sound, Stephen?
You're not hearing that at all? Let me just reset that. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
okay, let me just try that again. Sorry, everyone. I'll just reset that up. Hang on a tick. Just one sec.
I would
I was try-
describe my political
How's that?
views
Is that
as
working
the
now?
new right.
All good. Thank you.
Okay.
Feminism today is man-hating.
I would describe myself as
Sorry.
a feminist, 100%.
I don't believe that climate change exists.
We're not taking enough action on climate change.
I think it's about time these people got off their high horse and started looking for credible problems that actually exist.
It's absolutely critical that trans people have their own voice.
That's not right. You can't, you know, you're a man, be a man, or you're a female, be a female.
Women do need to remember that we need you to have our children.
Could I be friends with someone that says a woman's place is in the home?
Right, okay, well, I'm an expert at flat packs. If you have any trouble, just watch me.
So it looks like I've got your instructions here.
I think so.
Let me help you.
Let's have just that bit there.
Describe what it is like to be you in 5 adjectives.
Okay. Frustrating.
Dedicated.
Opinionated,
Lucky.
Ambitious.
offensive,
Solemn. I have ups and downs.
Strong.
I don't want to say attacked. Misunderstood.
Name 3 things you and I have in common.
we're both male, we're both confident, and we're both loudly spoken.
We know each other better than people who've known each other for 10 minutes should.
You seem quite ambitious and positive, and you got this really got a glow. Do you know what I'm saying? Your aura's pretty cool.
I'm sensing, are you former military or something?
People have said that, but there is no
Really?
history. So are you then ex-military?
Yeah.
If you're ex-military, I'm very proud of you already.
Well,
So
I grew up in a bit of a rough state. I've experienced homelessness. I've known what it's like to have absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm definitely most grateful just for life.
We've only just met, but I think you're the sort of person that would listen to me and we'd have a discussion rather than argue.
Yeah, you could hang out with, man.
let's go. My chance.
Goodness sake.
You're right, mate.
Fitter than I look.
Perfecto.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
So basically, I think we just built a bar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here. Each take a bottle and place it on its corresponding markings on the bar.
Attention, please now stand to watch a short film.
Feminism today is definitely an excuse for misandry, man-hating.
If somebody said to me that climate change is destroying the world, then I'd say that is total piffle.
So transgender, it is very odd. We're not set up to understand or see things like that.
I am a daughter, a wife. I am transgender.
I feel like the battle for feminism definitely isn't done. The fight is never going to be over, if I'm honest with you.
You now have a choice. You may go, or you can stay and discuss your differences over a beer.
I'm only joking.
You had me for a second then.
Well, I'm having a drink.
I'm having a drink.
Yeah.
I want to discuss.
Beer.
Yeah, beer and discuss.
Cheers.
At the end of the day, mate,
About
I've enjoyed
reaching out to
working with
people,
you.
yeah. And you know, even if you wanted to convince people about your point, the productive thing to do would be to sit
Just
down, have a
engage, just
beer.
engage.
I've been brought up in a way where everything's black and white, but life isn't black and white.
Yeah, I'm just me.
Yeah.
Smash the patriarchy.
I'll give you my mobile number, you give me yours, and we'll keep in touch. I'd have to tell my girlfriend that I'll be texting another girl. She might be a bit upset with that, but I'll have to get round.
Okay, it's about opening up our minds to open up our world. And that was Heineken's approach to getting through this stuff. It's a very challenging world and nothing will ever be black and white like it ever has before. In this new world, it's about understanding that inclusion's never been more important in this new multicultural, intergenerational world where respect for diversity is even more essential because people are becoming even more closely interconnected in this global village we now live in. It's no longer about demographic diversity. It's about diversity of thought. That's the true meaning of diversity. And even the new global standards, which I'll shed some light on shortly, don't focus on race, religion, age, gender, or sexuality. It looks at you as a unique individual, as a person, and what do you bring to the role in terms of your skills, perspectives, knowledge, and all the things that have shaped you to become the person you are today. But this new global standard also says that every single person now is responsible for the culture, the values, and the behaviors of an organization. So because it's no longer about diversity targets in many cases with this new standard globally, it's about understanding that everyone here is now a cultural carrier in the business. So what you say and do and what you don't say and do matters. This is your new world. But we also know that if inclusion is your strategy, diversity is the outcome, you can't have one without the other. Inclusion's become one of the most important parts of creating a new workplace. So it's an important part of your journey personally, but also your organization. And realizing too that diversity is for everyone, not just for one small group. That's a change. But let's talk about you. In the next 60 seconds, I want you to scan that QR code on your screen with your phone, please, and tell me, have you done one of those things or a number of those things? So let's see how we go as a group here today. So have you met a famous movie star? You can choose many of them if you want. Smoked pot, has a cat, has flown a plane, been on a TV show. And we'll get some idea on who these people are today on our session. Wow, people have been flying planes and been on a TV show. Look at that. We've got cats. We've got people with a smoked pot. Okay, interesting. I was doing a fashion label for Princess Polly, an international label, this morning. And when we put that slide up, the smoking pot went off the screen. It exploded. But in the session yesterday with another really high-end brand, when we put it up, almost nobody wanted to admit they'd done it. But it's always interesting, isn't it, how we see things in the workplace. Well, there you go. So out of this group, 60% of them have chosen that they've actually smoked pot. Interesting. Now, there are a small group of people here who have met a famous movie star. Is there anybody here who's happy and comfortable to put their hand up and share that experience for us? So who's met who and when? Come on, let's see how brave and how much courage you've got. Who wants to put their hand up? Is there anybody who's going to tell us about their met a famous? There we go. Nadia, off you go. Let's start.
Jean-Claude Van Damme back in the 90s.
Oh my goodness, at his peak.
I don't know if you can still count that.
Yeah, well, no, that would have been his peak at that time, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
When he was doing all those things. That's really interesting. That's really going back, isn't it? Okay, fantastic. Anybody else in the group wants to share their experience, or those who have been on a TV show? What was the TV show and when was it? It's always interesting. Go for it, Laura. What was yours?
I met Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, wow. Okay. Mates of Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yes. Similar era to Nadia's catch up as well with Mr.
Yes.
Jean-Claude Van Damme. He used to be European karate champion, and I'd done martial arts for a long time. That's how I met him. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. It's an insight into, in this new workplace, we're asking people to be inclusive. So we have to start finding new ways of getting people to feel comfortable and confident of sharing their stories in the workplace. Now, was that intrusive in the way we went about it, or was it inclusive? And as much as this new standard and the Respect at Work laws and psych safety is all saying we need to create a safe space where people can come and share their experiences, knowledge and skills and contribute safely to the success of your business, this is also about the role you will play as an inclusive individual and an inclusive leader under your DEI frameworks to set that scene, to have the courage to share your story, which actually often encourages others to share theirs. That's the lesson. Today, I want you to think about the things that you can start, stop, and continue doing in terms of your workplace. Now, that's me at a personal level. What do I need to change? The things I maybe think, say, and do. We as a team, what do we need to change to create a more inclusive and respectful workplace? But also us as an organisation, what should we change in terms of our methodology, our approach and our ideas? But today we'll also talk about these things. We're going to talk about, firstly, the new standards very quickly, just so it sets the scene as to why your policies and procedures, codes of conduct and everything else like that is very important, because there are a new set of standards globally for human capital management. It's an ISO 30415 Human Resource Management - Diversity and Inclusion. If you're a listed or a registered entity in Australia in particular, you now have to comply with the new risk standards for human capital. Now, when you think of risk, you often will think about workplace health and safety and environmental and IT and supply chain, but this is finally a global approach to human capital management and D&I. This standard came out in January of 2022. Not long after that was the Psych Safety at Work framework and the psychosocial hazards that were also released state by state, but it was drawn from largely the new global best practice standards that's been adopted by most human rights commissions across the world. So it's a global best practice approach to people. But then also there's the new Respect at Work training. And that was brought in to close the gap on previous legislation pieces around sexual harassment, bullying, discrimination, but again, drawn from psych safety and also drawn from the global risk standards. Now, this new risk standard is a holistic approach to people, diversity and inclusion, managing your human capital, but essentially it enables an organisation to demonstrate a real commitment to valuing people at every level. So it's a standard that's intended to facilitate fairness and dignity for all at work. And no matter how big or small your business is, it's scalable in terms of the size, sector and level of maturity. But also, when we talk about quantifying that value component, it's not just looking at the monetary value. The term also recognises the inherent and unique worth and merit of people. That means when it comes to that actual or potential contribution that people will make at all levels in the business as a result of their skills, knowledge, capabilities, networks, experiences, attitudes and insights, all the stuff that makes you who you are. But anything to do with a person is inside the standard. So whether it be inductions, onboarding, learning development, flexibility, accessibility, equality, inclusion, this new standard has a very different approach. So whatever you've been doing for the last 30 years, stop doing it. This approach is now the new risk approach that ASIC mandates and endorses, and AICD are also framing around it as well. And it means from the board right down through to the front of your business, your approach to people needs to be a little bit different. That means, again, are you the right person for the role? Not the right race, religion, age, gender, or sexuality. You can look at those sub-factors when you're trying to balance things up, but at the initial stage, you must treat all people fairly and equally and be respectful of that. But it also acknowledges that you may need different things at different points in time in your life. At some point in time, you may need more flexibility or accessibility or more responsibility or less responsibility. And it also caters for all of your needs, not just some. So the employer's approach is to look at each individual uniquely. So that's different. It's not what we've done before in any Australian workplace in particular. But the new framework around Respect at Work also introduced off the back of this a key initiative, and that is that positive duty, which introduces on all employers to take reasonable and proportionate measures to eliminate discrimination, sexual harassment, victimisation in the workplace as far as possible. This positive duty does apply to all employers without any exclusion. Now, as much as we call it discrimination, sexual harassment, victimisation, and those sorts of things, this is still sitting under the D&I framework, which is why it's important. And don't forget that that psychological safety framework, which is about a belief amongst the team that they won't be punished for taking risks without fear of negative consequences of self-image, status, or career. This framework is identical to the Respect at Work, and in turn draws directly from the new global standards. That means a respectful and an inclusive workplace. Now, as much as we can have all the policies, procedures, and frameworks and tools and strategies, at the end of the day, those documents are a supporting framework or a systematic approach to doing it. But without you walking the talk on this stuff, living and breathing it every single day, being advocates and champions of diversity and inclusion, then it does not happen. The paperwork supports it, but it's the people that drive it. And this is about how you participate and contribute in achieving your strategic objectives. Now, when I said to you at the start, think about the things you can start, stop, and continue doing, I want you to think about what are those business decisions you're making every single day and how do they play out in your organization? What are some of the trade-offs you're making? We know that diversity can bring many benefits to an organization, but on its own, it's not enough. We've also seen an organization with a very diverse looking workforce, but it's not necessarily an inclusive one. So yes, in Australia in particular, we've been guilty of ticking all the boxes. I want one of those, 3 of those, 4 of those, and if this one could combine a few things, we could have one of them only. But we often hear those cliche comments. This is a very different approach, and I keep reinforcing that. It's going to challenge you when you think about how your organization is structured to bring the right groups together, to build the right connections across boundaries, to get the best out of your people. Do you have development roles that actually create opportunities for people to learn and to grow? When you look at your work locations, do they put you close to those diverse talent pools? Are you structuring your networks in a way that connects all the dots, not just some, to meet your business priorities? And yes, inclusive leadership in particular is now an essential part for making sure diverse thinking is respected, it's managed, it's heard, it's applied. And we know that inclusive leaders who understand this are actually better prepared to react to change and communicate and influence in a way that gets everyone on board with new ideas and new ways of doing things. But that kind of leads us to the fact that through technological, societal, and environmental shifts, these are really reshaping how companies now engage with their people, their customers, and their communities. And if you're going to survive in the face of this increasing disruption, your organization will now need talent that matches the complexity of the world it now operates in. And to thrive, you will need diversity, equity, and inclusion to unlock the power and potential of all of your people. Now, when we talk about diversity, and still people are frightened of that word, from this point forward, I'd like you to forget about the word diversity. I just want you to focus on one word, and that's inclusion. And yes, the overwhelming case says the more inclusive you are as individuals and as leaders, the more beneficial it is in terms of financial impact, productivity, performance, and so forth. So the numbers do speak for themselves. But as soon as people say the word diversity, often people step back and close up. They think it's a threat to them. They don't see the benefits of DEI in the workplace. But let's just look at that. If you look at that screen right now, and you tick every single box that represents you as a unique person, which ones did you tick? Is it religion, morals, beliefs, age, race, language, ethnicity, education, societal, physical, values, cognitive, learning style, skills, talent? That was you as a unique individual. Which ones would you tick for yourself right now? And for many of you, you've probably ticked almost every single box. But no one person here is the same. Every one of you sees the world through a different lens. You bring a different perspective. But that's the thing about diversity, is we're recognizing that you are unique. Now, let's take you to another land. Let's make you think about where are you on the inclusion dial now. We're going to make you do a live test. So this is about you personally. And how do you feel in your workplace right now? Do you feel safe, where colleagues feel physically and emotionally safe in the workplace, regardless of who they are? Do you feel welcome in the workplace, where colleagues feel welcome regardless of who they are, and they can bring their whole selves to work without penalty? Do you feel celebrated in the workplace because of who they are, and they're rewarded for contributing their unique ideas and perspectives? Is there a culture of inclusion that permeates your organization and leaders actually embrace that difference as a source of competitive advantage? If you're not 100% in one of those quadrants, then you're probably not bringing it all into the workplace, where you challenge the status quo, where you drive disruption, you improve inclusivity, which means the question is, are you above the line or are you below the line, still holding back? So let's do it. Let's find out where you fit right now. As individuals, where are you? Are you feeling like you're above the line, or below the line, scan the QR code. Or if you're online, you can go to the slido.com and put in the hashtag with the number. So where are you, above the line or below the line? Now, of interest here is that most of the results sit somewhere between 20 and 48% below the line for organisations. That's the average. And what it does tell us is that we've all got more work to do. And out of the 26 people or 27 people on this call today, what we do know is if there's still a percentage of people still below the line, it's telling you you've still got more work to do in your organisation or wherever you're sitting. So inclusion extends not just from an organisational level, you've got to look at it at a team level and as an individual level where you all have responsibilities to be inclusive of the people around you. You set that standard. So your result today is not that different to anybody else's, but be mindful that from now on, you need to test that water regularly because that's exactly the test that we use for psych safety and respect at work. And if you're not testing that regularly and then improving it, then you're not seen to be taking all reasonable, practical steps, those proactive steps that you need to now do and demonstrate to the regulators as well. Well, let's talk about diversity and inclusion. So what's the difference? Well, people often ask, can it be one or the other? But it actually needs to be both to be successful. Diversity can refer to both the inherent and acquired diversity. And from an inherent perspective, we're talking about those demographic differences like our age, ethnicity, our gender, for example. From an acquired diversity perspective, we're talking about those other characteristics such as our experience, skills, knowledge, and our overall perspectives. But diversity is also the mix of what you do with people. So the mix of the people with whom you work. Inclusion, however, is how you make that mix work. Now, hands up if your favourite store's Bunnings and you do a lot of home renovations. Have we got any Bunnings people? We've got a couple there. Look at that. See? If you imagine going to Bunnings right now and you grab yourself a bag of pre-mixed concrete, you rip it home and you throw it in the bucket. If you put too much water in that, it's just slushy sand. If you don't put enough water in it, it's just crusty sand. But with the right amount of water and concrete, water and the concrete mix, you get concrete. That's where you get your strength. The hardness is formed. It's the same with diversity and inclusion. We're not saying it's death by inclusion. What we are saying is that you need to have a mix of people who bring different perspectives. You don't always have to have every single person in the room to make a decision, but you need a range of people who will challenge the status quo, who will disrupt your thinking, who will drive innovation and creativity, but also performance. So, but with that, it does take a courageous, curious, and a humble leader and an organizational culture that values people's uniquenesses and brings together those differences through collaboration and a sense of belonging. It's about showing empathy for others so that everyone works together effectively and is allowed to bring their whole selves to work. But that's a staircase effect as well. So with the inclusion staircase, the very first part of that is called fairness and respect. You know, when you feel like you're part of a group, participating, equally treated and so on. But the key question here is it's not about how you feel with inclusion. It's about how you've made the other person feel in that moment by what you've said and what you've done. Now, hands up if you've heard of the reasonable person test. How many hands have gone up? Only a couple. Okay, interesting. The reasonable person test is based on that line on the bottom of your page. The definition of inclusion. The reasonable person test is a test that's used for sexual harassment, bullying and discrimination now in Australia. It says, is it reasonable that Laura in that moment could have felt offended or humiliated or intimidated or vilified or victimized by what I've said and what I've done? If the answer is yes, I'll have a case to answer. And the organisation will be standing right behind me. Now, remember too, with this new law and legislation change is that the intention is irrelevant. I didn't mean to offend you, Laura. It means nothing to the judge. Their only concern is it reasonable that Laura in that moment could have reasonably felt that way? And then that's the starting point for what happens next. So remember, inclusion is not just the center point of the standards, psych safety and respect at work. It's also the foundation point for how they look at the reasonable person test, which they make you judge and make decisions on now as well. But if you do fairness and respect really well, that's when people feel like they are valued and they belong, like appreciated, part of a team, individual, important, being yourself, and so on. But it's easy to make people feel included who are just like you. You probably sit next to people you feel comfortable with all day long and you gravitate to those people. But you only have to do the things that make you feel happy and they feel included, so you don't have to work too hard. But ultimately, this is about inspiration and confidence. When people feel comfortable speaking up, empowered, trusted, and so on. And the ultimate aim is being able to make the people who are different to you feel included. They're not the ones that you reach out to. You don't make them part of your teams. And often we isolate them and leave them languishing outside of our circles. The unfortunate thing here is that when you don't feel like you're connected as part of the organization, you'll eventually leave the business. So when it comes to retention, turnover of staff, and those things, it has a large bottom line result. But that's your job, to make sure people around you feel engaged, included, and collaborated with. Now, I want you to think about a time when you've been working as part of a group or a team and you felt highly included in that group or team. What are the words that come to mind right now when you think about those words? So let's go. Scan that code again and whack it up. Put as many words as you like. So what are the words that come to mind when you've been working as part of a group or a team and you felt highly included? What are the words that come to mind? Okay, we've got energized, empowered, valued, respected, appreciated, proud. Look at this, empowered, confident, listened to, heard, confident. Lots of great words coming through. It's a powerful feeling, isn't it? When you feel motivated and excited to be part of a team, it's really, truly a powerful feeling. But I suppose this is the thing, isn't it? When you feel like you're heard and trusted, these are very important facets for you as a person to feel acknowledged and part of a team. So it is something that's worth engaging in. And when you realize that this is how you unlock the power and potential of your people, you'll see why. So when it comes time to how we got the biggest responses in each of those categories for the staircase, the thing was, with fairness and respect, the words that you've used, same with value and belonging. But it's also when you achieve psychological safety. It is a stepping stone effect, which gives you that ability to create a space where people feel safe and open, trusted, confident, happy, authentic, and supported. But then the next step is where innovation and creativity, agility and performance is really achieved. It's how you empower and grow and motivate, inspire and energize and engage your people. But remember, it all starts with fairness and respect, and inclusion is the foundation of that. Now, we know that all the studies globally, and that we've worked with Harvard and Oxford and Deloitte, and we created these frameworks. These frameworks are proven to be the most successful way to empower your people and drive performance in your organization. What we found through that was organizations with highly inclusive cultures, highly inclusive leaders, and highly inclusive individuals, that's you as an individual contributor, create an enormous shadow effect across the business. It meant that these organizations, compared to ones that lacked it, were 6 times more likely to be innovative. They were 6 times more likely to anticipate change and respond effectively. But they're also 2 times more likely to meet or exceed their financial targets. So we know that inclusion drives value and inclusion drives performance. Did we say the word diversity? We didn't, did we? It's the end result of when you achieve those things. But the other interesting thing that came out of the study was this: you as an individual now have more power than you realize. When you ensure that you as a leader or an individual ensure that the people around you feel valued, respected, engaged, collaborated with, able to contribute safely to the success of your business, you have a shadow effect across your team and then in turn the organization. It means that teams are 17% more likely to be higher performing, 20% more likely to make high quality decisions, but also 29% more likely to be more collaborative just because you're inclusive. So what you do matters, and we can measure the outcome. Now, individuals definitely feel better when you're more inclusive, and teams definitely perform better. But now that you know what feeling included is like, it's also your jobs as individuals and leaders to do that for those around you. But if you think back through your history of life, those most inclusive people and leaders you've worked with, these are the ones that shared their personal weaknesses. They'd openly asked for information they weren't aware of. They demonstrated a humble, unpretentious work manner. They put others at ease, enabling them to speak out and voice their opinions, which they actually valued. They also learnt about the cultural differences. They took the time to learn the common likes, dislikes, and the cultural pillars of the business. And that's really important. But also, they acknowledge their team members as individuals. They might have more than 100 different people in their team, but they'll address every single person by their name, what work stream they support, and what they actually do in the business. But then there's the least inclusive people, and they leave a stain on an organization that's very hard to remove. We don't remember them for all the right reasons, that's for sure. These are the ones that overpower others. They're very direct, and they limit the ability of those around them to actually contribute in meetings and participate in these important conversations. But also, they display favoritism. They've got their one or two favorite people. They give them all the workload. They create unsustainable workloads. And those people learn and burn out and leave the business, but they also don't give newer team members the opportunities to prove themselves and to grow and to build capacity. But these people also discount the alternative view. It's kind of their way or no way. And it's really difficult sometimes to get an alternative viewpoint across. So there's a big risk that their team will hold back and not bring forward those challenging points of view. But you've got to remember, you are the ones who can change that. So when it comes to the 6 signature traits of highly inclusive leaders and individuals, we're not going to talk too much more about this today, but remember, it's about commitment, courage, cognizance, curiosity, cultural intelligence, and collaboration. And it forms part of a massive inclusive leadership program. Most people have never got this skill. It's a skill that most leaders and people need to learn. It's not something you're born with, and no one person does it all well. You'll have 1 or 2 primary traits and you'll have nothing in the rest. So you need to surround yourself with people who bring many different perspectives. In your workplace, things are going to change further. One of the big things is data's become more overabundant than ever before. And everything that happens out there happens inside your workplace in an instant. For many people, it's about social media, news, Google, and many different forms that rapidly is accelerating the pace of change in our workplace. But the other big thing is what used to be your first family at home is now your first family at work, because this is where you spend most of your life, isn't it? In the workplace. So meaning and motivation have become more important in the workplace than ever before. And the other really big shift is that collaboration has now taken the place of command and control. Nobody needs to tell you what to do. You all know what your jobs are. But your job is also to get the best out of the people around you as well. And through empowerment and technology, what we're seeing is a global flattening of structures. Where there were 5 people managing 50, there's now 1. And that big shift is quite profound when you think about it. As we move to this rapid pace where we're all now part of a global village, it's all about your collective intelligence that's more important. It's no longer the power of one, it's the power of everyone. But there are even more shifts ahead as the world moves in the next 400 weekends by 2030 to where more than 12% of the global population will be more than 65 years of age. By 2100, it explodes to over 23% of the global population. So we have this massive explosion of older people and a shrinking of our younger person population, which is why in Australia we're about to change that number, because we are now still one of the least culturally and ethnically diverse nations in the world. And if we don't open up our doors very shortly, there's going to be some pretty hard times for us. In actual fact, we know for a fact that if you look at the red on your screen right now, that Canada, US, Europe, and Oceania, us, we are running out of people, younger people in particular. So that's the potential support ratio, is the number of people between 20 and 64 years of age compared to people who are 65 and over. In 2022, we hit 3.99. Now, If you look at all the countries that have a surplus of younger person population, they're our targets. And they're our challenge as well. We have to attract those people to the Australian market to get them to come and live here, feel safe, be part of the community, part of your workplaces. And this is where diversity and inclusion start to play its biggest part. And as the global blowout of migration occurs, in 2022, over 300 million people moved looking for better, safer places to go. By 2030, 400 weekends away, they're saying it'll be more than 500 million people per annum moving to different parts of the world looking for better lives. We need to be able to attract a very different place from this point forward. Up until 1973, we had a white Australia policy in place. And if we're going to have our workplaces looking like that on your screen now in the future, predominantly Asian, European, Latin American, and African, because that's literally where they're going to come from, we have to change our workplaces to be more diverse and culturally sensitive and aware than ever before. And this change in worker to people retired or on benefits population change is not just an Australian occurrence. Right across the world, there are less people working than ever before compared to people who are retired or on benefits. And if that number keeps going to in 2054, when they're saying in Australia in particular, it'll be 2.7 to 1, if we don't change that, you will all have to pay 3 times more tax than you're paying now to support this massive blowout of older population. But that hasn't changed yet. In 1973, between the age of 12 and 25, that represented 25% of our younger person population. By 2053, it's now forecast to be less than 16%. Now imagine your workplace. Who are you targeting to come and work in your workplace, your industry? Well, as this stuff starts to continue to explode, age is still growing out exponentially. And the most available source of talent right now for the next 100 years or 5,000 weekends in Australia is female. Because in actual fact, in Australia, females are outliving males substantially. And the really big shift is the fact that because the older population is extending their life plan and patterns, a number of them now are coming back into the workplace. But what you'll notice on the left-hand side of that screen is the ABS confirming that by 2051 and 2100, there are some big challenges ahead. In actual fact, the bulk of the available talent is on the right-hand screen from age 30 to age 75, and it's predominantly female. And they'll be the people who are most available in the workplace from now on. And we're not expecting that to change too much. In actual fact, by postcode, as an example, in Mosman and Sydney, there's only 89 males for every 100 females. And that's a good example of how this is affecting our national population bases and most of those population postcodes. But let's look at that. As we blow out our age, in the next 1,000 weekends or 20 years, more than 60% of our population will be more than 40 years of age. In the next 500 weekends, which is 10 years, more than 44,000 people will be over the age of 100. Your workplace needs to change dynamically. I said at the start, we've gone from 2 intergenerations in the workplace to 5. That's an 18-year-old to an 80-year-old. Well, this is where the 6th intergeneration is coming. If you're between 31 and 60 right now, put your hand up, please. Okay, your new midpoint you're forecast to live to by 2050 as a male is 108.1. And if you're a female, it's 110.3 years of age is your new forecast average you'll live to. Upper level's about 116. If you're 30 and below, put your hand up. Have we got any 30-year-olds here today? We do. Look at Taylor's face. Watch Taylor's face. Her new midpoint she's forecast to live to by 2050 is 121 years of age with an upper level of 134 if she really takes care of herself. And through better interventional techniques, pharmaceuticals, and improving the way we maintain life, this upward swing is continuing. But here's the kicker for all of you. If you're between 31 and 60 right now, your new forecast retirement age is 80 years of age that you must work to get to those new numbers on the bottom of your screen. But if you're Taylor, her new forecast retirement age is 92 years of age. Is she still smiling? No, she's shaking her head going, no way. Isn't that interesting? Look, let's put that in perspective. I'll show you how quickly life goes. Taylor, do you mind disclosing your age? Put your mic on.
I'm 22.
You're 22. Okay. So 1,000 weekends ago, you were 2 years of age in nappies, and I don't think you remember what you're doing. But let's go back. 3 weekends ago, what were you doing, Taylor?
3 weekends ago, I was celebrating an engagement, doing some study.
Oh, wonderful. Very good. Okay. Well, imagine this. 3 weekends ago. Doesn't seem like too far ago, but for many people, it seems like forever. In 1,000 weekends, you'll be 42. In 2,000 weekends, you'll be 62. In 3,000 weekends, you'll be 82. You'll still have 10 more years of work ahead of you. And for many of you, you can't remember what you did 3 weekends ago. So life goes fast. So our workforce planning now needs to be 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 weekends, which is 20, 40, 60 years out. And many of our clients are doing exactly that. They're looking at the differences ahead of us. Your workplace is changing. It is smarter learning, smarter thinking, smarter doing. It's 30% more on the job learning, 100% more on the job problem solving, and 46% more on the job agility. Now, to show you how we all perceive things differently, I want you to all to close your eyes right now, please. I want you to listen to the sound of my voice. Here we go. Imagine you're running late for a plane, and as you go past the boarding gate, you go past the boarding staff, and as you board the plane, the pilot steps out of the cockpit to say hello. Now you've arrived at your destination and you're having dinner that night at this amazing restaurant. It's the best food you've ever had, so enjoy it because calories don't count in a visualization. And at the table next to you is a couple and they're celebrating their anniversary and they look very much in love. Now the next morning, you get up and you attend a conference where the CEO of a new successful technology startup is giving a presentation on their industry. And they talk about their product and the services they deliver, and you feel incredibly inspired. Now, open your eyes. Let's go back on that journey. When you saw that pilot coming out of the cockpit to say hello, were they a person of color? And that couple that was celebrating their anniversary at the restaurant, who looked very much in love, were they a lesbian couple? And that CEO who really inspired you from a technology startup, did she really inspire you? See, it's okay if you didn't imagine these people the same way because we all have unconscious and implicit biases that change the way we navigate the world around us. But this is an important conversation because your own experiences are the biggest things that now contribute to your workplace, how you see the world, and particularly from age 2 to 22, it forms a huge part of making you who you are today. So learning to walk, talk, and all of those experiences you had, if you were afraid of dogs because you got chased and bitten when you were young, you've probably still got that hard mark in your mind right now. Hands up if you saw the movie Jaws. Hands up if you saw the movie Jaws. Have you gone back to the water yet? Because my mum's 84, and since she's seen that movie, she's never gone back in the water. And Valerie Taylor recently said, who made that movie, she wished she'd never made it because it's affected 3 generations of humans on this earth, this fear of sharks in the ocean, in the water. But there's lots of things that have shaped you, hasn't there? All of your experiences from that age through has shaped you to become who you are today. And whether you're afraid of water because you got caught in a rip or all of those little things that have happened to you, even down to your very first kiss. Who remembers their very first emotional entanglement, that very first kiss? Was it a good experience or was it a bad experience? Hands up if you had a good experience. Look at your faces. Okay, you're emotionally scarred. That's okay. But it affects the way you see relationships and how you move into people and the confidence levels you have with many different things. But importantly, media now plays a huge part in shaping you and your efforts in DEI. In particular, when you think about media, the types of TV shows or movies or things you watch, how does it influence the way you see whole population bases? Now let's test you. If you think about an American, who's the first person you think about right now? Call it out, please. Who's the first person's name you think about when you think about American? Who's the first person in your mind? Now you can put it in the chat.
Schwarzenegger.
Schwarzenegger, really? Okay. Right.
Patrick Mahomes.
Really? Okay. Interesting. And I was thinking that somebody would have said Donald Trump then for a second. Oh, somebody did. Sarah Gilmore did. Okay. Does Donald Trump cast a good shadow across the American people or a bad one? What are your thoughts? Down, okay, Brennan says bad. Okay, well, let's go the other way. Let's go to England. If you think about England, who do you think about first? Who's the first person that comes into your mind? Type it in or call it out. Who's the first person you think about with England? Okay, the Queen. Amanda, thank you. And Corinne. Does the Queen cast a good shadow across the English people or a bad one? A good one. Okay. When you think about New Zealanders, here's another example. When Jacinda Ardern was running the country, did you think better of New Zealanders or did you think less of them? Better or worse? Come on, put your mics on. Let's go.
Better.
Better. Okay. Well, think about that. One person can cast a shadow very quickly across an entire country, can't they? When it comes to inclusion in the workplace, you also have that capability. Now, just out of interest, who can tell me who the current Prime Minister is in New Zealand? Because I haven't found anybody who knows the person's name. So when we talk about a person leaving a good mark or a bad mark or no mark at all, isn't that interesting? Okay. The other part of this is things that other people tell us in the workplace. Imagine if Brandon, you want to be my guinea pig today, Brandon. Okay, imagine if Brandon was applying for a job with this organization today and none of you have ever met him before. And I said to you, look, I've heard Brandon's a pain in the ass to work with. He's grumpy all the time. He's tardy. He turns up for work late. Would it influence the way you see Brandon as a new candidate looking for a job? And the answer is probably. Now, if 10 people said really nice things about Brandon and said he's a great bloke, he's really good looking and handsome and he's good at his job, would it change the way you were thinking? Or are you still focusing on that one negative thing? See, humans love to see the bad before we see the good. It's like every other species. We look for the bad before we see the good to protect ourselves. But we've got to challenge things more than ever before. Now, hands up if you love Telstra. If you think Telstra's a great company. Okay, no hands going up. Okay, they are in the top 1% of telcos in the entire world. Their uptime's 99.7% of the time. But none of you think anything good about them, do you? Hands up if you trust insurance companies. Okay, they pay out 98% of claims. So when I said to you about looking for the bad before you see the good, that's what humans do. And when it comes to our workplace, we're a little bit too good at it. So let's sort of think about that. Remember that your perception every day becomes somebody else's reality. How you see people and perceive reality can change on a daily basis, but it also affects your attitude of how you react towards people, how friendly or unfriendly you are, even down to which aspects of a person you pay most attention to, even down to how much you listen to someone. But these all stem from your own values, your experiences that leads to quick judgments about what's good, bad, right, or wrong, and it introduces irrelevant and incorrect assumptions and associations. But most of all, it happens without you even realizing it, and it affects every single decision that you make. But we need to now look at that. We need to start thinking about how we train people within our workplace and moving towards a very different part of the world. We know that when it comes to our unconscious biases in the workplace, we know that it starts with a number of different things. Micro behaviors are an important part of that. And those telltale signs that tell us exactly how you feel in that moment when you meet someone, about your facial expression, eye contact, tone of voice, body posture, well, it's linked to many other things as well. And when it comes to micro behaviors and micro biases, what we do know is that those two things are connected. It's how people see you and it's how you see them, and it's what they remember. So before you ignore emails from a person repeatedly and never reply back, or do you constantly mispronounce a person's name and you don't take the time to learn how to say it properly? Do you interrupt someone and talk over them in a conversation? If somebody walks up to your desk, you go, yep, keep talking to me. I'm still working, but I'm listening. You don't take the time to stop and be respectful. There's a lot of things we do every single day that change the way people see you and how you see them. But we've got to remember too that diversity is just a word. It's just a fact. That's all it is. Inclusion is the deliberate act that actually empowers your people. So go back to start thinking about what can you do to create a more inclusive environment. One of the biggest challenges we've got right now is the fact that all of these generations in the workplace means that there is change there. We all hear and see things very differently. But in actual fact, after studying more than 2,000 global firms, what we found is that there is actually very little differences between the workplace. In this new workplace, we've got to start remembering that what we've got now is a failure to communicate. What we did find through all of our global research is that the individuals of each generation are guilty of not spending enough time trying to get to know the communication styles of other generations. They seem to have this attitude, oh no, they need to learn my way, as opposed to seeing the benefits of the different styles of each generation. But the remedy is quite simple. We need to start thinking about the fact that in our workplace, the diversity within team includes a lot of different attitudes based on work and generational and culture and so forth, but it doesn't mean any attitude is right or wrong. It just means each person's approach to their work and life might be a little bit different. So embrace it, learn from it, create a space where people feel safe to speak up. And those steps you can take are quite simple. It's as simple as stop thinking your way is the only way. It's just a different way. Make that conscious effort and that decision to accept and respect the differences between you all, and be more tolerant, be more understanding in the workplace. But we also want you to be more comfortable with conflict. More than ever before, with greater diversity comes the potential for greater conflict. So if you could just take one deep breath, everyone, right now, the deepest breath you can take in, then out. The difference between a good decision and a bad decision when it comes to people is literally one deep breath. That's how long it takes to be conscious in that moment, to step back and consider the context of how best to respond. It gives you the chance to learn from the experience and build a stronger relationship from that resolution. And at the very start, I said to you, one of the most important things you can do is, firstly, forget about the word diversity. And if you just put inclusion first, you will get all the other things. And that leads us to a very simple outcome. Being nice is no longer enough in the workplace. We actually all now need to do more than ever before. Respect and inclusion are deliberate acts, and it's your personal actions that will make the biggest difference from this point forward, and they happen every single day. Okay, it's about respecting others for the value they bring. So think about what impact you're going to make moving forward. You are now the cultural custodians of your workplace. Everything you do from this point forward affects so many different generations to come. If you could imagine your niece, nephew, child, friend, or someone you knew starting work in your organization tomorrow, how would you want them to be valued, respected, engaged, collaborated with, able to allow them to contribute safely to the success of your organization? And if you can answer that, then you know exactly what you've got to start, stop, and continue doing moving forward. So write something down, and in a few weeks' time, go back and revisit that, put some actions into place, change things for the future, and do something differently. Any thoughts, any questions? That's the end of the program. Have I stunned you? Any questions from the group? What are some things you can start, stop, and continue, everyone? No thoughts at all. That's it. Okay, fantastic. You're all quiet. Feel free to reach out to me directly if you've got any questions or comments. Scott, you got some thoughts?
Oh, I think Brendan had something there I was going to say. I think he put his hand up.
Oh, I didn't see it. Sorry.
Stephen.
Stephen, I was just going to ask, with the start, stop, continue, you'd said me, we, and us. Is that correct?
That's right. So me at a personal level, what do I need to change? We as a team, what do we need to do to improve to create a respectful workplace, an inclusive one, but also us as an organization, which is really important because you're all involved in setting a new charter, a new place to work in. Everything we've done in Australia for the last 30, 40 years as a workplace is gone. It's from this point forward, it's a very different workplace with respect at work, psych safety, and the new global standards. It's not going to ever go back to the way it was. And when people say, I've been doing it this way for 30 years, I've been saying it that way for 30 years, it's language, it's so many things. We've got 5 generations, soon to be 6. And yeah, we all say things differently and hear things differently. But we now need to reset all of those boundaries. It doesn't just affect one generation, it affects every generation to come.
Perfect.
Okay, fantastic. You've got my contact details. We'll send out a copy in PDF of the program today. If you've got any questions or want to run some other sessions in your groups or companies, then feel free to reach out. Okay. Thank you so much for your time today, everyone. Have a great day, what's left of it. And yeah, thank you.
I'll just quickly take over there. Look, Stephen, on behalf of AMCA, thank you so much for today. Really, really appreciated that oversight and presentation. And I think a couple of key things there, which are really simple things to remember, is I wrote down here, you know, can't have inclusion without diversity, and obviously can't have diversity without inclusion. So that was a key message. But look, thank you, Stephen, and AMCA. We will roll out, obviously, our diversity inclusion policy template and our code of conduct, and we will also make sure today's presentation is distributed. But again, on behalf of AMCA, thank you so much, Stephen, for today.
No problem. Nice to meet you all. Thanks everyone.
Everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.